Howdy everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I'm sorry for the delay today. I was excitedly showing off my new split board to my dad and I lost track of time, so I apologize. I don't even have a good excuse really. But today we are going to be making some hybrid pen blanks. This is kind of a special one for Kid Cooper. He came up with an idea for a color mix, and he's been supporting the show. He's been buying like every pen that I make on the streams lately, and so he had this mixture of colors that he wanted, and I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. Let's see how it goes. So just to let you know, I actually did I kind of did the original mixture already, and so I wanted to show that first, and then just in case, I wanted to see if that's what he had in mind. And if not, we'll kind of alter the thing and do another batch basically. So it should be pretty fun. Let me switch to the overhead view real quick and I'll show you what is going on. Here's the ones that we made. Here are what we're going to be casting today. And this is, I believe it's red Malee Burl, so Aussie Burl. And just to let you know, all I've done is dried this. This stuff is so dense and so hard that most of the Aussie Burls, the stuff from Australia, there's really no advantage to stabilizing it. It just dry it out fully. So I've had it in the oven for honestly for days at 225 Fahrenheit. So there's no water in it or moisture in it at all. We got a couple of chunks there, and what we're gonna do, it's pretty nice to have just kind of a big chunk like this. All we're going to do is just glue these guys in, and then basically it's kind of like making a resin river pen blank brick. So we just fill the in-betweens basically. So it should be pretty cool, just to show you guys what the results are of something like this before we even begin. Sorry about that loud noise. Here's what we got. So not too shabby. Now what we did, the mixture that he wanted was the Blurple mix. So that's my blue to purple color shift powder with a little bit of purple dye, just like a drop of purple dye in there, with black. And so you can see there's some really dark areas in here. That's black dye. You can see some kind of veins. And then the other color is interference green. And so this is why I wanted to do this kind of ahead of time, because I'm not sure if this green, so Brian, you'll have to let me know. I'm not sure if this green is as oh, we got to get on the camera here, is the brightness that you wanted. I wasn't sure if that's kind of the green that you were looking for, or if you were going for something like you wanted, like this, like the super bright green with that. So let me know if this is kind of along the same lines. Either way, we're probably going to do something different today. We already have this batch, so we'll do something a little different than this. But I just wanted to make sure that if we're going to make the Holy Grail pen for you, that it better be the color choices that you really had in mind, So should be pretty awesome. They're going to be really, really beautiful blanks. This Aussie Burl, the red Malee, I mean, it's just beautiful. Beautiful wood. So let's see what's going on. Who was here first? Let's see what's going on the screen here. I guess well, whatever, you can see my face. Kim was here first. Nice. And Mike's got stuff going on. Well, thanks for dropping by. I appreciate that. Paul in Vegas is here, and Paul Coburn, and we got Clyde's here. Nice. Jean's here. Cool. And Jim, nice. Dominic's here, sweet. Who else? Broom Rider, awesome. And Spencer's here too. Welcome to the stream. Is this the first one that you've made it out to, Spencer? I'm not sure. That's cool. Oh, and Dennis too. Sorry, I missed you up there. Kind of ran together. So, okay, so super bright green. Yeah, I kind of thought that's what you had in mind. The problem is we were talking about the interference colors and how black will make them kind of pop more. And so, the problem with this is it's kind of popping, but let me go see if I have an example of, it's the same thing. We've kind of talked about interference colors and the color shift powders. they tend to pop with, you know, like with a black background or next to black. And so, do I have? Oh, here's, yeah. This is kind of an example. It's not a great example. There's just not a lot of this stuff. But so these are the opal or the mother of pearl kind of blanks. Abalone, I should say. Sorry, that's what I meant. And I don't know if you can tell, but you know, most of the time it's a mixture of 3 different interference powders, so red, blue, and green. And you can see next to the, I know this isn't the greatest example, but the green really pops out next to the black. But you know, when there's no black near it, those colors don't pop out as much. This is a good example right there. All right, so that's the problem, is it's kind of like this pearly, it looks like white pearl. The interference powders or ghost powders, they kind of look like a pearl, but if you get like a really dark vein right next to it, then it really pops out in your face. But if you're going for just like a super bright green, you're better off just going with, you know, either maybe a fluorescent dye with powder. There's like, I would say like 3 different ways that I can think of off the top of my head on how to get like a nice, you know, lime green kind of color. You could use the key lime. Why is that not? It's not focusing on anything. The camera dirty or what's going on here? Anyway, key lime from Divine Pigments is a good one. And, you know, of course, that's going to be that color pretty much. There's lots of different ones. One of my favorites is the apple green from Pearlex. That's a really nice bright green. There's lots of different bright greens. This one is, I would say, one of the most opaque, that you can get the most opaque. A lot of the lighter colored micas just don't get very opaque, no matter how much you put in there. This one's one of the best that I've found, so I like that. And then the other way is like a fluorescent green, but this isn't really going to be opaque either. It's just going to be kind of like glow stick. It's like this is what we used for the paper towel holder. I think I actually might have glued that in now. You know, so something like this, but it's see-through. So it's like a lightsaber or something like that. All right, so you could add more of this. I didn't put that much in this blank, but no matter how much of this you add, it's just gonna be kind of like a cloudy, hazy thing where you can kind of, you know, light's gonna go through it. So for pen blanks, for your typical pen blanks, if you're not doing like the kitless pens, you're going to run into issues with tubes, you know. So I'm guessing that the best way, and a lot of times I'll actually mix some of this fluorescent dye in with this just to make sure that there's lots of green. But I'm going to throw it out there to Kid Cooper. What would you rather see, like the Pearlex, you know, like this, the mica powder, like kind of that, the pearly colors, or do you want to see solid? Like the lime green, key lime green, that's going to give you, you know, just like a solid dye color, but it's not going to be pearly at all. All right, so let's see here. Let's switch to the overhead view. So we're going to go with I'm going to go with the mixture of the fluorescent dye plus the apple green from Pearlex. We're going to go with the Blurple. And so this is the blue to purple color shift powder that's available on my website, and my Starlight glitter also available. And you can get, I have a kit basically where it's not in a jar. Unfortunately, I still haven't switched to jars for the powder. It's in a baggie, but you get one of each. You get the blue to purple color shift powder, the micro Starlight, which is like fine, you know, the super fine stuff, and then the chunky glitter. So one of each of those, that's the best way to go. You save 15% if you get the what do you call it? The bundle. Starlight Color Shift Bundle. So I recommend, especially if you're going to get like one glitter and then the color shift, definitely get the bundle, because it'll pretty much be the same price. Okay, so we'll get some gloves on. Another thing, we got a full We got a full, what do you call it? Happy Fun Cup, guys. It's full. Look at that. So we'll be popping that out and doing some. I think what I want to make is like either a pencil pot, because I got a lot of pencils and things that I really just want a jar to put them in. Or I might actually go for like a flower pot where you can like plant something in it. That'd be kind of fun. All right, so we got our blurple, and I go with just a drop of the violet dye, and then we got black. All right, we are ready to rock and roll. Now, before we begin, I'm gonna glue in, should have got the hot glue gun going. Might have to edit this live stream down for the replays because I yapped for a long time about random stuff. Where's my glue sticks? Man, I'm gonna have to order some more glue sticks, guys. What size are these? 1/2 inch. All right, I'll have to remember that. All right, so we'll just let that warm up. All I'm going to do is just tack a couple spots on the top of these things, and it should stick fairly well. One thing to keep in mind, if you spray your mold with mold release, it's going to make it much more difficult for that hot glue to stick to it. So what you can do is just kind of wipe it off with a little bit of acetone in the spots that you're going to, stick a piece of glue. So I'm just going to kind of wipe off that corner and then in this area. But the rest of that thing is sprayed, let's say. This one, I think I'm just going to kind of wipe off the top, and I'm just going to blob some glue blobs on the top of this thing, and it should hold it in place good enough. It's not exactly square, this edge here. So... oh well, not a big deal. Channeling the fluorescent. Yeah, we're gonna do it. I think it'll be fun. Oh, no, what? No worries, Brian. No worries, man. I thought it was fun. I appreciate all the support you've given me. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with throwing out some ideas. Let's do it. And luckily, I had some of this Malee Burl just hanging around. You said you wanted exotic wood, and I was like, well, the problem is, and I wanted to kind of mention one thing. So when people say exotic woods, I come from like a woodworking background, and when you say exotic, I'm thinking like tropical hardwoods kind of thing, like purple heart maybe, or zebra wood, or babinga, or some of these things. The problem is a lot of those tropical hardwoods are really not very fun to turn. They're like pretty like kind of, I would actually put them in like a brittle almost kind of category. And the other issue with them, and this has to do with the casting part, a lot of them have a lot of oils in them. And so it actually doesn't bond well with resin sometimes. So again, that's kind of like a very specific group of exotic hardwoods. Some of them can be in that category. So I was glad that I had something that I would call kind of exotic, but it's like burl wood just generally works a little bit better for these types of things, I find. In general. Oh, you meant a burl. Okay, cool. So I did it right. Look at that. I was right on 2 counts. All right, so let's go to the overhead. And like I said, I'm just going to... let's see if we can kind of get you guys zoomed in a little bit on this action right here. So I kind of want this like kind of right in the middle, and I'm just literally just going to blob the heck out of this so that it's like bridging the gap, on the top. The resin's not going to go that high in the first place. In fact, I think I'm going to lay it down kind of all the way across the top of that. And the nice thing is this is so high that it's really not going to like have anything to do with the blanks. If I ended up putting it down in, you can have that on the blanks themselves. I don't cut my blanks lengthwise. So I try to stay away from putting glue right in the middle of you know, down in, you know, you think the blanks are going to come out. They're not going to be much more than 3/4 inches, you know, or so from the bottom of this mold after I've cut them all up. And these things are they're well over an inch, like 1.25 inches tall. So if you put the glue up high, it's not going to have any effect on the, you know, the blanks. It's not even going to be in there. So I'm actually going to put some glue on the side here and here and here. Oh, I kind of got it stuck there. Then I'm also just going to add a little blob right in the middle, just to make sure. What we're doing is we don't want this stuff to float. And I would say that this stuff is so dense that the thought of it actually floating is probably not going to happen in this case. It's just heavy and dense. However, what can happen is the resin can kind of seep its way underneath, and rather than really floating, it's just like it's kind of pushing it up. And so if you want to make sure that your chunks, the wood chunks are locked in place, make sure to kind of, you know, if you don't want them to move at all, make sure to kind of lock them down as best you can. All right, so we'll just kind of hold this here for a second. Looking pretty good. That'll kind of, it's not really going anywhere, so I'm going to put it back in the oven, keep it nice and toasty. Now, you know, it's hot glue. Hot glue melts with heat, but it still works, you know, as long as you keep your oven not too high. So I keep my oven around 150, and that generally, everything works out okay. All right, so we need, let's see here, we need 3 colors. I got to get my book out. Let's write our steps down here. All right, so we'll tap that. Today is 3/25. Let's see what's going on in the comments here. Yeah, the kit list is a totally different, you know, rabbit hole basically, and that's why I kind of stayed away from it, because I'm like, I just don't have time for this. I've made a few in the past and I really enjoyed it, but it was just like in the past I was like, I'm not ready to commit. But this year, that was kind of one of my goals. I really wanted to get into that. Like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand with the vertical pours that I've been doing. So it lets me, you know, if I can get pens that, one of the things is I want to make sure that I'm not making disgusting looking pens. I want to get good enough to where they look good. They may not be the best pen on the planet. I'm not trying to compete with some of these guys that's all they do, but good enough to look good in a picture kind of thing and show off the blanks. But like I said, for myself, I really enjoy that process. It just, you know, doing the tapping and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it's a pretty fun way to make a pen. Let's see here. These are the hybrid Holy Grail pen blanks. We're going to be using, so we need, the tough thing about measuring, you know, you can do the rice, or, you know, there's all these different ways to kind of measure how much resin. I'm just going to go with that mold, the square molds that I you know, I was using. If I had no wood in it and I was going for like a 1-inch blank, I'd be looking at about 540 grams for this one. So obviously we don't need that much. What did I do before? I think that was plenty. We're going to go with 350 grams. Let's go with 400. Then we got 3 colors, so that's 200 times 2. So we're going to be using Alumilite Clear, slow. I don't have a label on it. I'm sorry. I asked Alumilite to send me some new jugs because my old ones were getting pretty gross. And they sent me jugs, but they didn't send me the jugs with labels. So that's Alumilite Clear Slow. That's a 1-to-1 mixture. It's a urethane resin. So 200 times 2, 200 part A, 200 part B. And then we're just going to divide this up into thirds, I think. No, actually, we'll do a little less black. Yeah, that's how I did the other ones, and I think that works. Black can kind of take over your blanks, so a lot of times I'll use less if black is one of the colors. So we are going to go, let's see here, 400. we could go, I think we can go, yeah, 150, 150, and 100. Is that how much I want to do? That's 400. I think I actually want to go a little higher than that. I want to kind of double it. So let's try, what is, okay, so we're looking at like 160. Ah, there we go. Perfect. 160. We're going to use 160 grams for the green and the purple, and then we're going to use 80, so half of the amount for the black. And we just need probably like, I don't know, probably not that much. I'm just going to put 0.4 grams of black dye in there. We're going to go with the Pearl X Apple Green. Wrong way. Oh, there we go. Pearl X Apple Green, which we're going to need maybe like, we're going to load it up. We're going to go with 3/4 teaspoon. And then plus, I'm just going to kind of put a squeeze of this fluorescent dye. And for the blurple, we probably can get away with just a half teaspoon of the color shift powder, 1 drop of violet dye, plus we're going to put in probably about a half teaspoon of the Starlight glitter. If we need to make any adjustments, if I'm like, that's not really enough of the glitter or, you know, whatever, we can kind of come back and do that. All right, so Tony's here. What's up, man? All the burls. Yeah, I know. You gotta put like a red X on. You should walk around and see if there's any marked, and then put a red circle around it to keep it for you. Okay, so 400 grams. Let's get our cup out here. Cracked a cup. That cup's just kind of funky. It's going to require more cleaning than I want to deal with. I like to make sure that I get there's like little bits of, you know, resin. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like little bits in there. So I like to kind of peel that out. I don't really need that in the resin. I don't think it's really going to hurt anything particularly, but it's also not going to help anything. So try to get all that junk out when I clean a cup. If it really matters, you can maybe get yourself like some sort of a little scraper, or even use like a ruler. See, I'm getting even more using the scraper. And then you can either blow it out with an air hose or just kind of tap it. Grab it with your fingers, whatever. It's good to keep them as clean as possible. All right, so I'm going to widen out everything so you can kind of see. We're just waiting for it to become a hazard. Yeah. Oops. That thing's looking hazardous. I think we need to take it out. 200 grams of Part A. Oh, and I also wanted to mention, Gretchen said to let you guys know, she wanted to thank you guys all for the birthday wishes last week. I made it in plenty of time to dinner. We had a great time, and it all worked out. Oh, and a little update on that bottle opener. I've already used it. Last Thursday, that's our day off, and I went split boarding and came home. We got some pizza, I had a couple beers, and that bottle opener is awesome. I love it. It works great. So I have finally a new handmade bottle opener. All right, so 200 grams of part B. A little over, no big deal. I think we were a couple tenths of grams over on the part A. That's not going to hurt anything, especially when you're dealing with like 400 grams. Where things get really important, really important when you're mixing up resin is, especially when you're mixing small amounts, you really want to get it really close. If you're talking, 300, 400, 500 grams or more, there's some variance that's not really going to make it that big of a deal if it's off a little bit. But in general, strive to get as close as possible to even. Mainly just because that way, if there is a problem with your blanks or your casting, you're not like, well, I was kind of off on the measurement. I don't know if that caused the problem, or so if you can kind of eliminate as many things that could have caused a problem, then solving the issue becomes a lot easier. So always try to get it matched up pretty close when you're measuring out your resins. So actually, I got a question for you guys. Has anyone been to a pen show? So like not like the pen turners gathering, where it's like, people that make pens are all coming and it's kind of like turners, like a pen show where it's for like pen collectors and stuff. Typically, I think those things are a lot more focused on these fountain pens for the most part, but I think, I'm sure there's overlap with like roller balls and stuff. I'd be curious. I haven't been to one of those yet. I think there's one in like LA. That would be fairly close to me, somewhat reasonably close. I'm wondering if there's one in like Sacramento. That would be fabulous. I don't know how. I want to go to a fairly big one. I know the Washington D.C. pen show is a big one, as far as I understand. But I'd love to hear if you guys have anybody's been to one of these things, or does that sound like something that might interest you at all? Going and checking something like that out. I've never been to them. I'm more on the maker, thought side of things. But now that I'm trying to kind of dive into this, like fountain pens are totally different to me, and so I'm kind of part of the thing is I'd like to go to one just to see a bunch of different designs, which I can maybe kind of take little components of, oh, I really like the way that this person did this. Not to go and steal some other maker's design completely or anything like that, but just see what's out there and maybe come up with a couple little things that you can kind of put together on my own pen to kind of make it unique. That's the other thing, is I'd also like to make something that's, I don't know, hopefully somewhat unique compared to everybody else's. Maybe just one little design aspect or whatever. Yeah. Those things, people spend a lot of money on these fountain pens. All right, so we need that cup and actually just a smaller one for the black. So we're going to divvy out 80 grams of black. 80 grams for the black, I should maybe say. Doesn't have to be like totally perfect, but pretty close. In this case, totally perfect. And then, like I said, I'm going to put 0.4 grams of black in here. You don't need to go too crazy. Yep, scouting for ideas. Yeah. Like I said, I'm even willing to pay for, pens and stuff from different people. Oh, good. They didn't steal the blanks. Oh, man. So we sent a package, and they left the packing slip in this package and took all the blanks. Somebody did. So That is not cool. I'm glad that they made it this time. I'm looking forward to seeing those turned up. Like I said, I'm always excited when people buy the kitless length, because I'm kind of diving into this aspect of pen turning myself, and I'm like, oh, what are you gonna make with it? It's kind of reinvigorated my love for pen turning a little bit. It's not like I didn't love pen turning before, but when you jump into some new aspect of whatever kind of turning, it's always fun. It's exciting, kind of new. Anything like that, I think, gets you excited about it. Okay, so we got the black done. Do need to mix that a little bit. So we're going to do a half teaspoon of the blurple here. That can go in like there. Wipe off my spoon here. And then we need a half teaspoon of the Starlight glitter. And again, I got two different sizes. This is the chunky one, the original Starlight. And then there's also micro Starlight. So that's a little heavy. It's a heavy half teaspoon, but that's fine. You can never have too much glitter. Close these guys up so I don't spill them. Don't want to spill the precious glitter and blurple. Oh, and by the way, thank you, CJ, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Yeah, we got you covered hopefully this time. The other issue is I need to get some larger. So, and I think most people probably know, but on my website, there's like economy shipping, which basically that just means it's going into one of those bubble packs, the bubble mailer things, and it's first class, so it's not insured. And then the other one's just priority mail, so whichever way fits or works, whichever package. And the problem is I think I need to get some bigger bubble mailers too. Because for those, they work fine for how everything, for the options that you can have. For like the 5.5 inch blanks fit fine in the ones that I have, but the 8.5 inch long blanks don't. They're like pretty close diagonally, so that might that could have had something to do with it too. I don't know if there's a way for me to force, if people buy kitless blanks, I don't know that there's an easy way for me to force a small flat rate box. So like priority shipping on those. I don't know. I hate the shipping calculation thing on my website. It's so hard. Seems like they could just make that a lot easier. If they buy this blank, it must be put in this box, but it can get kind of crazy when you have different size things. You broke a $100 pen? Oh no. Got your money back? Nice. I love it. Oh, that's funny. All right, so I'm just gonna put a squeeze, whatever that is. It doesn't matter that much. Squeeze of fluorescent dye, fluorescent green. And then we were gonna do a 3/4 teaspoon of this apple green. And we're going to be waiting till kind of the end of the working time. We're going to wait for this to reach probably about 105 Fahrenheit, I think. Well, maybe 95. I got to look at my notes. Whatever I used on the last pour worked really well. So I'm not pouring as many slow set clear swirls. So I really got to kind of, okay, so 100 degrees Fahrenheit we'll pour at. And for anybody that's kind of new to this whole thing, looking at like how do you get these color swirls, if you don't wait till, like I said, the end of the working time. So this resin I'm using has a 12-minute working time or so, depending on the temperature in the shop and whatever. If you poured it right away, so we mixed it up and we poured, you just pour it immediately, as soon as you can. The resin's really thin, like watery, right? And so the problem is these colors will just bleed together if you pour it right away when it's thinner. So what we're waiting for at that end of the working time, or near, waiting till a certain temperature, what ends up happening is that these cups will thicken up. And that way you can pour and they don't just bleed together right away. And so that's one of the big reasons why I like slow set clear, Alumilite's slow set clear, or clear slow, I guess is what it's called. It makes it so that you're not sitting there waiting, because if you're just using a kind of typical epoxy, a lot of them have like a 30 to 40 minute working time. That means you're going to be waiting 30 minutes. You're going to mix up your stuff and then walk away and sit there and wait. And so I don't like having to wait that long. I would probably mess up a lot of blanks if I had to do that. So I like that 12 minutes. It's a pretty good amount of time. Gives you enough time to get things done in most cases. There are certain circumstances. I do use slower setting resins for certain things, but for these color swirl type blanks, 12 minutes I think is typically, you're going to be good to go. $1,000 fountain pen. He had the right to reject it? Oh my God. Oh yeah. Mont Blanc, yeah. Ooh, the Chevy Camaro. Yeah, I like, this is one of my favorite mixes. I really like lime green. Green's kind of my favorite color for the most part. I like a good green. And like I said, that apple green from Pearl-Ex is kind of my favorite if we're going for like a kind of this kind of green, like that lime green, kind of bright light green. Apple green has kind of been my favorite for a while. I'd imagine that Eye Candy, because if you go to Eye Candy's website, so just to let you guys know, for anybody that doesn't know, Turner's Warehouse carries quite a few Eye Candy colors, but they only carry some. And I will actually say that it's pretty limited compared to what, if you go to the Eye Candy I don't know what the .com is, but they're, the Eye Candy's website, they have a ton of colors, like tons. It's actually kind of ridiculous because they'll have like a bunch of different blues that all look the same. And so it's a little bit overkill. A lot of times, Turner's Warehouse doesn't need to carry every single one because half of them are so close that. But I will say there are some other colors on their website that if you're looking for something specific, Eye Candy's got a ton of shades. So you might find something on their website. And if you find something that you like, Chad will actually bring new colors in if you request it. Especially if it's something that they really don't have. And he's definitely willing to bring that in. So you can get it from Turner's Warehouse still. Gray was your favorite color? Gray's nice. Yeah, liquid diamonds, that's a good one. Green is the best. I know. I had a green truck. I had a Chevy 98 Chevy pickup. It was a regular cab when I was in high school. I loved that truck. It was like a really nice, like a forest green. Good color. That truck was a monster too. I bought it brand new. And it was a four-wheel drive, and man, that thing would get up and go. So we're at 101 according to that thing. Probably want to start pouring here. 97. Yeah, I think we're there. I think we're good. So I'm going to get this. I have these little pieces of HDPE just so that I can get my fingers under the mold when I want to pick it up and put it in the mold. Or, I mean, in the pressure pot. Let's zoom in a little bit, huh? And then at this point, you just kind of have at it, have a little bit of fun. I like to kind of pour just a little bit in the bottom of each color. Probably going to cut that off anyway, but you never know. Hopefully I got enough resin in here. Then we can pour a little bit more. Per pass. And there's a billion different ways, methods, you know, that you can pour these blanks, like techniques, let's call it. This is just the way I usually do it. Some people try to really layer like thin layers on each pass, like squiggly, like they kind of do this kind of weird squiggly thing. I don't have the dexterity to do that. I guess with enough practice I could figure it out, but and that can kind of give you slightly different results. But I find if you just kind of pour like this, I tend to get, you know, reasonably decent looking blanks. You get, you know, kind of blobby sections. And then what I do at the end is I'm going to come back and give it a little bit of a mix with my stick, the stir stick. And I definitely get, you know, some nice looking swirls. But you can see that it's kind of laying down somewhat. It's not just kind of dispersing right away when I pour this stuff. That's the advantage to waiting till the end of that working time, is to make sure that that resin is kind of thickening up. And it just kind of helps you be able to kind of keep those colors nice and separate when you're pouring them. And you don't have to, you can even do little squiggles, like I see people do that. Whatever way works good for you. All right, so I think we got plenty of resin in there at this point. I'm going to save the rest of this stuff. What I'm going to do is we're going to kind of dump this into this cup. And then I'm going to dump this one into this cup. Another way that you can actually do these pours is what they call a dirty pour. You can pour all your colors together and then just dump it in your mold. A lot of times I find that the color, the patterns and stuff they kind of all blend together a little bit more than I would kind of like. So I don't do that a whole lot. But it is a method that'll get you some interesting kind of patterns. And like I said, I just kind of swirled that up a little bit, and we're looking pretty good. I think this is going to be pretty sweet. Get that into the pressure pot. I don't have a camera that I can pan over here, so apologize, but we're just popping it in our pressure pot. And we're going to take this up to 60 psi. And there we have it. All right, so let's get our happy fun cup. So this is kind of the dirty pour thing. You can see how, you know, but the problem is by the time it drops down into that cup, it just kind of makes these weird squiggles. So, you know, results kind of may vary on this. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool, but there's other ways to get cool looking stuff, and it just, with a little bit more kind of separation between, you know, the different colors, I find. So I usually don't do the dirty pour method. Now, one other thing to kind of mention also is varying these times, the temperature. I recommend using temperature as your guide to tell you when to, when to pour, because I find that to be the most repeatable. I used to use time, but the problem is, you know, it varies. How long did it actually take you to mix all these colors up and all this stuff? And so, or, you know, mix your resin together. So time isn't a very good way of doing it, I don't find. The temperature thing is something that's pretty repeatable. You know, you're going to get consistent results if you pour all your blanks. A couple things: if you pour them all at the same temperature, if you find you're getting good results, it's kind of two parts though. Same temperature, that's going to give you pretty much the same viscosity of the resin, as well as the same kind of technique. If you do it wildly different than, you know, 100 degrees or 95 or, you know, whatever you pick, it may not really work the same exact way. Okay, so it's kind of a two-part thing when people ask about how to get you know, good swirl patterns in their pen blanks. Well, the temperature thing is huge, because if you pour it when it's too thin, all the colors will just bleed together, and that's just terrible. So the number one thing is that temperature, and that's the easy one. Like I said, you can kind of play around, you know, test things out, see what kind of results you get at different temperatures, and kind of lock that down in. But you'll also want to kind of work on, you know, the technique. Try to keep that fairly consistent. Once you've gotten good results, do that kind of consistently, and at that point, then you can utilize that temperature plus your technique, and you can get pretty, you know, every batch is gonna come out looking totally different, the swirls and all that, but in general, you can get a pretty similar look. So like I said, kind of, you know, it's all about kind of experimenting, playing around with the different techniques, seeing what works for you. What works for me may not work for you, you know, the technique I use. But it may work fine too. So that's another thing. You know, I was talking about going to like the pen show and kind of looking at different people's pens, and even so there's, for anybody that doesn't really know, the fountain pen world, there's also like commercial, you know, mass-produced fountain pens out there. We were talking about, I think it was Mont Blanc and Montegrappa and Pilot, and all these companies make, you know, mass-produced fountain pens. And then there's, you know, like the smaller people like me and you, making kind of custom bespoke pens kind of thing. So it's like all kinds of different stuff. And frankly, I mean, even just looking at the commercial, you know, mass-produced ones, you can get some good design ideas from those too. So it's kind of interesting. It's a whole different world if you get into the pen collecting, you know, world. And it also kind of goes hand in hand with like the journaling, writing, you know, all that kind of stuff too. Looks like a Holy Grail Joker. Yeah, it does kind of look like the Joker mix. That's true. We already have a Grail. Do I ever measure the temp of resin when I put it in the pressure pot? No, I don't really care about that. It's more, this is specifically for me to know when to pour. So I don't really care. The thing is though, you know, it needs to be, I've gotten to the point where I know that I still have, if I pour these things, it's 68, 67 degrees in my shop right now. So that's the third thing that does factor into this, is the temperature, the ambient temperature in your shop will affect, you can't just say, okay, it's 100 degrees. You know, I take the temperature of the resin, it's 100 degrees, and, you know, all throughout the year, no matter what temperature it is in your shop, you can't just always use that, I don't think, because 100 degrees when it's like 85 degrees in my shop, the resin's still thin. It's not the same viscosity. So I mean, realistically, the best measure would be viscosity probably. However, I also think that the longer you can wait, the closer you can get to the end of the working time, the closer it is to the point where it's literally going to turn solid. So it's not going to move around at all. So that's kind of a part of the thing with waiting till the end. But really, I think it really, most of it has to do with viscosity. So I don't know. viscosity. Maybe the heat does kind of keep the different colors of the, the different resins that you're pouring together apart, maybe. I don't know. But, you'll have to kind of play around with that. And definitely, the big thing is make sure to keep notes. All right, so, right now, I'm actually going to write this down. So I poured at 100, or it was maybe a little higher than that, but I'm going to say 100 was kind of my number. And it was 67 in my shop. So I've got that written down. I have the date, right? I know what temperature it was in my shop, and I know what I poured it at. If I know that these blanks turned out great, and that's what I did with these. These turned out great. That was great swirling, good separation, all that kind of stuff. This was a really good pour. And I know that I know that the temperature didn't change for sure, because it was only a couple days ago, and the shop temp stays the same in the winter. But I knew that I looked at my notes and I was like, oh, I poured it at 100, so I should be good to go doing this batch. So always keep notes. And this is actually, I need to take my own advice. I need to start taking down notes on these fountain pens that I'm making, because I'm like, oh, what did I do on this thing? You can't remember all the details that go into all these different types of things. So make sure to, take as many notes as possible. If something works out really well, try to go back to your notes and say, oh, this worked really great. That's a good temperature at, 67 degrees in my shop or whatever. So you'll take one of each. Nice. Sweet. Yeah. Sorry, just reading some of these. Yeah, so I don't measure the temperature of the resin when I put it in the pressure pot. But also for anybody that's kind of new to this, the color swirls and all that, you do have to watch out because you don't want to wait too long. All right, so if there's a point where you may be able to kind of actually, it's still pouring out sort of, but it's so thick that you'll actually, even with the pressure pot, get air bubbles in it. So there is a point of kind of no return. It's generally going to be a lot higher temperature than we were at right now, but there is a window, but you should be able to find what you're looking for is kind of, I would say, kind of like the lowest temperature that you can get the right color separation that you're looking for. You don't necessarily need to, especially with this one. I mean, I only had a few more minutes left of it being liquid. You don't need to, really be up against the wall with this. Just the minimum number, as soon as you can do it with getting the results you want, that's what you're shooting for, let's say. Drum ghouls in Houston, that's cool. I'll definitely mark that down. I'm going to write a note in my little thing here. Drum ghoul. That's a crazy name. It's a little farther than I'd want to go. Like I said, if there's one that's like, it'd be really nice if there's one that's reasonable in Sacramento, because that's like a 2-hour drive for me. I mean, I could do that in a day without having to get a hotel or anything like that. But I'll keep that in mind for sure. I'll look it up. So yeah, the colors look pretty good on that. I really love that. I'm actually kind of surprised. We did that with the blurple and then the starlight glitter on the stream. I was like, oh, I wonder what this will look like. And I really didn't think I'd like it at first. And I was like, wow, this looks pretty cool. So I like the green and purple. That's always a good one. You're welcome, man. So that's all that I had for today, guys. I'm not kind of hanging around just to do another one. But like I said, so we've got these guys and these, and we'll kind of I'll probably split these up. These guys are going to go into the subscription boxes this month. And I got some really cool pen blanks in this one. You guys, I think, are going to really like it on the subscription boxes. But so we'll kind of do like a half and half on the newest batch that we just poured, and then the other ones, because I think they're all going to look good. It's not that I was concerned that these weren't going to look good. I think these are going to look really awesome. I just didn't think it's exactly what you wanted, or I wasn't sure. So anyway, it should be fun. So next week we will turn a pen. I'm gonna make a, that's the wrong drawer. We're gonna make a Mirage rollerball. It looked like a pretty cool kit. I haven't done this one before, I don't think. So let's take a peek at this. I'm gonna put a paper towel down, so just in case there's resin sitting around. So I'll give you a little sneak peek on what this thing looks like. Kind of like it's a little bit straighter lines than some of the other kits that I've done. But I think it looks pretty cool. Look at that. That's a pretty cool looking clip. This camera just does not really want to, there we go, that's pretty focused. It's got some pretty cool lining on it. But I like the shapes on this. Let's see, this is the, what is this part? This bottom. Feels like something's missing there. I guess not. That's the end finial on the body. Kind of like the shaping on these. Let's see what the nib looks like. So a pretty standard nib, but kind of more flat, you know, like flat and just angled stuff with the gunmetal. I think this will be a pretty good kit for this. I like this. So there we have it. Nice. All right. So next Saturday we'll turn this guy up, or one of those guys. I'll have to cut them up. I'll probably post pictures of them cut up, and I like to polish. The way that I deal with these things, I don't spend a bunch of time sanding. I have like a cabinet saw, table saw, so it's like kind of heavy. So minimal vibration, that's kind of one of the keys. And then a good blade. And then the other thing about if anybody's like cutting these on the table saw specifically, actually I would say even on a bandsaw, the key to getting the smoothest cut, a good blade goes a long way, a good table saw goes a long way, but also one of the key things is to keep like a consistent feed. If you're like kind of jerky with it, or like kind of zoom in and then slow down, it's gonna leave kind of a weirder, you're gonna leave like different, surfaces, let's say, on your cut. So if you can just feed it, fairly, and I would actually say even slower is gonna give you a better cut, smoother finish. Just give it it doesn't have to be super slow, but just, a medium, but continuous cut, a smooth cut through, push, let's say, will give you a pretty good surface on your blanks. And so all I do after that is I just go and hit it with the Triple E buffing wheel. And that's how I got these things. And they're not like super polished. I can still see like the saw marks, but it's good enough to actually see the patterns and have the colors pop out for you. So just a little kind of tip kind of thing on how I do that. Oh, San Francisco. Why wasn't I thinking of that? That wouldn't be too bad. That would be a good one. That's about 5 hours from me. And that's a pretty big show, isn't it? I think that's a pretty big one. Or I think it's pretty big. I would call it that. Where did I get that kit? It looks like I got it at Exotic Blanks. I don't want to even mention their name, but I'd rather mention Turner's Warehouse personally. It's not that I don't have anything against Exotic, but yeah, it looks like it's an older one. I haven't gotten to it yet. Oh, and it's actually a different, I got to make sure that I'm doing this right. It's actually a different kit. So it's not just a junior, the typical junior style. It's a longer barrel or body. So that's kind of cool. I got to make sure that I got the right drill bits for this and all that. But it looks like a pretty decent kit. I don't know, like a little bit more like a modern design. I would kind of call it. So. All right, Broom Rider, have a good one. And I think that is about all. Oh, the hot glue, yeah, the hot glue gun. It works. It's funny because HDPE is non-stick, but a hot glue gun, it will stick to it. at least long enough, like good enough to keep your burls in place. Sometimes they'll kind of pop free, but typically you should be pretty good to go. So, and international, August. Oh, cool. Yeah, I might have to go hit that up in August. 25 through 27. Should be in town, I think. Yeah. So I might hit that up if anybody's going. So yeah, just in time to say goodnight. So anyway, guys, thank you all for joining the fun tonight. Thank you to CJ for the super chat. I appreciate it, and thanks for letting me know that you got the package this time. I was like, oh no. The good news is I haven't lost a package. And I mean, I'm not like super crazy. I'm sure Turner's Warehouse probably ships a whole lot more than I do in some of these other stores, but I ship a good amount of things, and it's been a long time since the post office has lost anything, or like the package didn't contain the stuff. It was ripped open. So it's good to know. Hopefully it won't happen again for a long time though. No, I don't think I'm going to have any extras actually out of these boxes. Maybe I might. I don't know. Hit me up. Shoot me an email. Let me know if you might be interested. We'll see if I got any left afterwards. I don't know if I'm going to have any extras. So, but shoot me an email if you want to find out. So anyway, guys, thanks again for joining the fun tonight. We'll see you on next week's stream when we turn one of these guys up. I can't wait to see how that pen turns out. I think it's going to look pretty good. And yeah, so I hope you guys have a great evening. Get in the shop, do some resin casting, make some pens or whatever you want on the lathe.